Hello, everyone, and welcome to season three of Build and Grow Money Matters, a series dedicated to helping businesses go beyond financial management to achieve financial growth, resilience, and innovation. As businesses continue to revive and pivot to newer models in these tough times, your story is proud to partner with HSBC for another season of inspiring conversations, insights, and observations. We feature some of the newest trendsetters in business and stalwarts of the ecosystem to help businesses power the next phase of growth and business continuity. Thanks to the introduction of conversational AI, chatbots and voice assistants are now used by major companies for resolving customer disputes, driving employee engagement, and much more. It also is enabling smart homes. Gartner forecasts that by 2025, businesses that embed AI in their customer engagement platforms will further enhance their operational efficiency by 25%. In the Indian market, conversational AI has witnessed a massive growth, and voice is enabling access even for users in India who cannot afford to have a smartphone. To give us the bigger picture of the conversational AI market, we have with us Saurabh Gupta, founder and CEO of Vernacular.ai. This AI first SaaS business is enhancing customer experience through intelligent voice conversations. An IIT Roorkee alumnus, he, along with fellow graduate Akshay Deshraj, traveled miles and miles to understand the next billion customers and their needs before founding Vernacular.ai in 2016. Welcome aboard, Saurabh. Welcome to this program.
Thank you, Madan. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thanks, Saurabh. Let's begin with your growth story. It's quite a formidable story. You have your vernacular intelligent voice assistant called Viva, can apparently handle over 16 languages today and more than 160 dialects. How have you been able to build this?
Madan, I think, like you said, right, there was a point of time when Geo had come in and everyone was talking about people getting access to internet for the first time in their lives, and how rural India is coming online. Google voice searches have been increasing over 200% year on year, and most of it is driven by regional languages. And this was 4 years back, right? When we looked at this data and people talking about a billion people coming online, we started spending time in, with these people to understand what their needs are, and all of that. And, during the process, we realized the biggest challenge these people are going to face when they come online is going to be the language problem, because most of them don't understand English, and all the digital interfaces today exist in English. So that was really the point where we realized that something like this would make sense, building for a voice first world. And so we started building. And of course, if you need to build for these users, you need to cover all the languages. So we ended up covering 16.
Thanks, Saurabh. Those are some very interesting, impressive numbers back there. But in addition to the numbers, there's also a lot of nuances in speech. For example, the age of the person, the gender, the sentiment, and so on. So it must have been quite an effort to be able to program all this into your algorithms. Can you tell us about some of the challenges you face by training the AI to handle all these nuances of speech?
I think just to understand the complexity of problem, the reason we do not see a lot of voice assistants around us already, vis-a-vis a geography like US, UK, where there are plenty, is because of language challenges. And none of the companies, including the likes of top tech companies globally, have been able to solve this problem. There are a few challenges. The first challenge is when we say languages, we end up saying, oh, India has 22 official languages, right? But it's not about 22 official languages. Hindi itself has 50, 60 dialects. The number of speakers of Bhojpuri, which is one dialect of Hindi, is more than the population of Spain, right? So that is the scale that we are looking at. So when you truly need to solve for India and Indian languages, you don't just have to solve for language, but you also have to solve for dialects. And then accents, how I speak English is very different from, how a person, who's born and brought up in Northeast will speak English, or a person who's born and brought up in South of India will speak English, right? So, and this is what we've seen. And with that, we're building things like sentiment analysis, gender, age detection. All of these are hard technical problems to do. The challenges are multifold. One challenge is that all of these are ML problems. So you need to solve all of them from 0 to 1 from scratch. And also what we see is the data that you need for each of them is very different. And collecting data itself is nothing short of a nightmare, to build this.
Thanks, Saurabh. In addition to these challenges of nuances of speech, there's also the question of funding. Can you tell us a little bit about how you raise funding and what kind of expansion you have in mind? We believe you raised about $5.1 million in funding led by Xfinity Ventures and by Kalari Capital. How is this playing out in your growth story?
Sure. So we did raise this amount last year as our Series A, and the primary reason to raised the investment was to double down on our India growth numbers and also expand outside India. So we've done fairly well. We've grown our revenue significantly over the last year or so. We've also expanded to Southeast Asia, US, where we now have paying customers. So net, we've been able to expand quite well, even with significant money in the bank, even till now.
Thanks, Saurabh. The other big shadow hanging over our heads these days is this coronavirus pandemic. We're now in a very severe phase two. Can you tell us about how you overcame some of the challenges in this phase, and maybe what are some lessons you learned which our audience can also take away? Saurabh?
Sure. I think it's important to. There's been a lot talked about the first wave of COVID last year, but the second wave of COVID has been a different level of challenge altogether. And just talking about that specifically, I think a couple of months back we changed the focus of our business. We always used to say that we are a customer first organization, which we are, but during the last 2 months we've been people first, right? And when I say people first, I mean people working in the company, people, be it our customers, be it our partners. We know the kind of challenges people were facing, so we built a task force internally in the team to help our customers, partners, and internal team members to scout or to look for, let's say, oxygen concentrators, cylinders, book hospital beds. We, give monetary support to all our, team members, and we gave them as much time as they needed to, take. And it was not just about them being impacted. It's about their family members, or you also need to ensure that the mental health is, taken care of. So there were some initiatives around that as well.
Thanks, Saurabh. That's a very inspiring story right there. Speaking of customers and partners, we believe you recently tied up with Axis Bank and you've launched an AI-powered multilingual voice bot built on top of your own technology. Tell us a little bit about these kinds of deployments, Saurabh.
Sure. So Axis Bank is one of our marquee customers. We've been working with them for over a year now, and of course, the scale of Axis Bank, one can imagine. They're getting somewhere more than 100,000 calls per day. Globally, this is a huge number to manage. And with this, obviously, when you have challenges like COVID coming in, people cannot go to bank branches anymore. So the only channel they have, the primary channel they have to engage, with the bank would be a call center. And Axis Bank saw a spike in call volumes, has been seeing a spike in call volumes post-COVID. And with that, what it means is you need to hire, significantly more workforce. And when you hire them, where do how do you train them? How do you, put them in an office with COVID happening all around, right? So it was a very challenging moment they were going through. So for that we partnered with them, and we launched Viva, which you can practically use when you call a call center. And we've seen amazing success. Axis Bank is already seeing ROI. They've been talking about it out there themselves. And there has been significant automation they've done on the IVR and the queries that agents were doing. So as a user, if you spend 10 to 15 minutes on wait time earlier, now that time is practically zero with the bot coming in.
Thanks, Saurabh. Let's talk a little bit about impact now. When people normally think about AI, they think of cities, smart, sophisticated users, and so on. But you also have a big footprint in smaller towns and cities in India. Tell us a little bit about what kind of impact you're having over there, Saurabh.
Sure. So our customers, I think important to understand, our customers are enterprises. We are a B2B2C company. While we work with enterprises, they will have end users that are across, tier 3, tier 4 towns. And these end users are non-English speaking users. And when they are engaging with, the enterprises that we work with, that is where our multilingual voice assistants come into picture. The user journey for them before was, going to the IVR, getting stuck in English or Hindi. They don't understand the language. They get connected to an agent who again does not speak anything other than English or Hindi. But now using our product, they can talk practically in 10 12 languages, and that's how we solve the problem.
Thanks, Saurabh. That's quite an in-depth understanding you have of your customers. Let's talk a little bit about the future now. Where are you planning to be in the next 18 to 24 months, for example? We believe that the voice adoption of AI is accelerating. It's going to be anywhere from $35 to $50 billion in 2025 as a market. What are you planning to play out in this space? Where do you plan to be in the next 2 years? Saurabh?
So we are, of course, expanding significantly. We are growing significantly. We're planning to, hire 300 people in the next 12 to 18 months. And, while we do that, we plan to grow the revenue numbers 10x, over the next 24 months. right? So that's the primary focus, and this growth is going to come not just from India but also outside India. So of course, India is working out very well for us. We have most of the large institutions as our customers. So this is where we double down significantly. But also we've got like a few wins in Southeast Asia and US, and some people of our leadership team will be moving to US also. In the next few months, and that's where large part of our growth will come from.
Those are some very impressive growth numbers there, Saurabh. Tell us a little bit more about the job outlook. Obviously, a lot of people are very worried, not just about the pandemic now, but about the economic slowdown. There's news about retrenchment, there's news about pay cuts. But at the same time, you seem to have quadrupled your workforce and you may be doubling your headcount in the financial year. How are you managing all this growth and what are the implications for hiring, for talent, and so on? Saurabh?
Sure. Right. So at no point of time, we went through any sort of salary cut or anything like that. In fact, we've had like appraisals twice in the last 12 months for our team members. And the business has been doing well for us because this is the time where enterprises, when they earlier had a physical and digital strategy, now they are realizing that physical world does not exist in lockdowns, and all their focus is getting into a digital strategy. And even for the users, even they cannot visit the businesses physically, they are looking to engage with channels like call centers. So we are seeing an increase in demand for sure for a product like us. While we do that, like I said before, we are doubling down across the board. We are hiring people significantly, and we're hiring them as fast as we can.
That's very encouraging news for our audience, I'm sure, Saurabh. You talked about global growth a while ago, and you believe that you recently expanded into the Southeast Asia market as well. And obviously, being digital has helped you expand much easier and much cheaper overseas. So, can you tell us a little bit about some other global markets you plan to go to, which Southeast Asian markets in particular, any other markets in Asia or elsewhere, Saurabh?
Sure. So, at least for the next year or so, our focus is two geographies outside India. One is Southeast Asia and one US. That's where we want to maintain our focus. These are very large markets, and we are seeing great traction for the product. So we want to double down here, make sure that we are the number one player. It's of course become much easier to expand outside India post-COVID. Earlier, the expectation enterprises had was, if you are an enterprise sitting in US, you would expect, someone to come to you, spend time with you, someone take you to, lunch or a dinner. That's how you sort of build a relationship and close a deal. But after COVID, now you cannot meet physically. So you might be sitting in Bangalore and act as if you're sitting in New York or San Francisco, right? All you have to do is work in the nighttime, and you can build relationships over Zoom. That's how it's working out, and that has worked quite well for us. So our team sitting in India has been able to crack both US and Southeast Asia, whereas in a pre-COVID world, it would have been very hard to do. However, as the world improves and we are getting back to offices, we are going to be building local teams as well.
Thanks, Saurabh. For the last few questions, let's turn to the question of money now. This show is called Money Matters. So let me ask you a little bit about what is your relationship with money like right now? We talked about some of the professional aspects earlier, like the investment part. Tell us a little bit maybe about your personal relationship with money, maybe even your philosophical relationship with money. What do you think about money? How do you make it grow? What does it do for you, Saurabh?
Sure. I think the relationship with money or the thought process has been changing, honestly, every couple of years. Started the company straight out of college. For the first year, we didn't have any money, me and my co-founder, and we were practically borrowing money from our parents. So a large part of thought process at that time was you're only getting so much, and parents are giving you, whereas for everyone else, after IIT, parents expect them to give money back home, and we are asking money from our parents. So at that point of time, the thought process was just try to survive with the money that you have. Try not to go out too much, eat at home, and those kind of things. Then we raised the first round. I think this was a year into coming into Bangalore. So even after we raised the first round, we were getting taking minimal salary, but at least the pressure of borrowing from parents went away. So then the idea was, this is the money that we are getting. So can we survive within this money? We shouldn't have to borrow from anyone else at any point of time. And I like to take this opportunity to also thank a lot of my friends who we borrowed a lot of money from my friends, and that's how we sort of survived the first few years. But more recently, the financial situation is better. So we've started investing. I've started personally investing money. investing into primarily cryptos, but the thought process there is not to make money, more to understand what's going on in the market. What are people talking about? You don't want to open Twitter and see, you do not understand half the things when people talk about Dogecoin and Bitcoin and that kind of stuff. So have some money invested there, but I think the primary thought process is monetary goal has to be linked to what we are doing at Vernacular. That's where our equity is. That's where I think in the long term the wealth generation will happen for me and the other teammates.
Thanks, Saurabh. I'm sure the audience appreciates all those who supported you in your journey, and they also appreciate your sense of humor, I'm sure. Thanks. My last question for you in terms of the finance part of it would be, what has it been like to work with investors, lenders, and banks? What are some of your expectations from lenders and banks for business? Saurabh?
Sure. So we have banks as our customers, and we work with them. We have very deep relationships with most of them. And our expectations is, we give them the product, they see the ROI, they keep paying us on time. Right. So there are no expectations beyond this. We've not taken any lending, product for Vernacular as of now. However, from investors, we've had some great investors on board, and the expectation from them is to keep supporting us through thick and thin.
Thanks, Saurabh. Just to sum up now, would you like to share maybe 3 lessons you've learned in your journey that you can share with our founders, aspiring founders in the audience? Some tips, some gyan, some lessons on how to succeed in such an uncertain world today. Saurabh, a few tips.
Sure. What I've come to realize, Madan, is most of the gyan becomes very contextual. Right. So what happens is, you hear some people and you sometimes think that, oh, wow, I've learned something new. But at the same time, you hear some other people and you think, you've known this all along, because everyone's learning is very contextual to the situation they're in. I think a few things that clearly stand out in our journey to mention. One is persistence. Right. So if you're solving a hard problem, you're not going to see success within a month or 2 months. You need to give it time. You need to solve the problem. You sell to enterprises. There is 6 to 9 months sales cycle. You build a product like AI. It can take a year to 2 years to even get to a stage where the product is ready to be deployed somewhere. And you give it time. You, as long as you have self-belief, you give it time, and as long as you are focused doing the right things, eventually you will see success. And there will be a lot of lows, but you sort of do not focus on that too much. Optimize for the maximas, not the local maximas, but the other maximas. And also, I think another thing I would like to mention is don't believe or don't listen too much outside. Sometimes you talk to people and you're trying to do a thing which has not been done before. And people using their frameworks will try to say you are X for Y. You are like this company. They are doing very well. Why don't you copy that? Why don't you try something like this? But what we've seen is when you're trying to do something genuinely new, which is not there in the market, people will say that because they've not seen success. But once you actually go live, once you start seeing success, then you will become one of those companies. The same people say, why don't you do something like Vernacular now? Because they're doing so well. So, have significant self-belief, spend a lot of time focusing on the problem you want to solve. And once you are focused on the problem, you are aware that's the right problem to spend time on, then, it's okay if it takes 2, 3, 4 years to, solve it.
Thanks so much, Saurabh. That has been a fantastic discussion. My key takeaway from the last 20 minutes, half an hour or so of the discussion have been what I would say the 3 T's: technology, talent, and transformation. Technology, definitely. This is the age of AI, ML, and so on. So you better have at least 1 foot in technology. Talent, you need to have the right team to build out into a diverse market like India, into a diverse market like the rest of the world. And transformation, see how you can use technology to transform your businesses, to transform your partners and your clients. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Wish you all the best in your journey ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madan. Great being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks.